My name's Donna Somerville. I have been a full-time student of spiritual journey since 1988. I've been a full-time channel 25, 28, might even be 30 years. But I started out very normal. I started out with a strong faith in God. I started out as a government employee, and I intended to become Deputy Minister of Finance. And I started to have some health issues with high blood pressure, and in those days I was very thin. It was stress related, so I joined a meditation class. I quit after 2 weeks because it was way too weird, reincarnation, psychic, and all that stuff. I backed out of that quite quickly. But luckily for me, I went back. Within 3 months, my blood pressure was normal. My doctor said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. I met my husband in that class. We're now going to be 30 years married in December. And it changed my life. I started to look at my world differently. I started to see that the surface wasn't where joy came from. I'd always wanted to be a teacher. Ended up in a government job just because that happens. And have explored teaching through all of the spiritual journey. The first thing I taught was meditation because I wanted to teach it to my staff. I had such positive effects from the visualized meditation that Barbara Eagles taught, God rest her soul, that I started there. And from there, everything else has just grown. My purpose is to be better than I used to be. I work with clients full time, have for, like I said, I think it's 25 or 28 years now. And right from the beginning, my work with clients was always self-serving. I always said to God Creator, I will keep doing this as long as I am growing and learning. I did go through that service stage that a lot of us go through early on, but I grew out of that. And now I'm in this as much for me as for my clients. I do one-on-one work, I do classroom work. And now that we've most recently moved to Nova Scotia, we're here now 4 months. I don't see people in my home anymore. I do it all online or distance. And that's working really well. When I joined the meditation class, that first meditation class, and went back, I started to see a shallowness in my life that I didn't like, and continued with that group for like 5 years. And Barbara Eagles, taught me tarot card reading. And so I started part-time doing tarot. In those days, we're talking now 1992, 1994, I did messages from your guides and angels using cards. I asked God to bless me in my usefulness to him as I did it. I was still very religious. I still am very connected to Creator, but not quite so limited in the religiousness of it. I worked part-time at the work, probably 6 years. I remember my first meditation class that I was teaching, I had 1 student, and I taught that class for 4 weeks just because I was going to do this. So it took me about 6 years to get to the point where I was brave enough to let the job go. Now, in all fairness, the Creator had a great hand in that because I was laid off from my job at the government, which gave me support for a year. And I was married to David by that point, and he was working. But so it was a gradual movement from one to the other. But also what happened, I've been very fortunate in my life in that when I stopped enjoying what I was doing, I was able to leave it. When I was, those first 12 years in the federal government, I loved what I did. And then when I started to delve more deeply into myself, I realized I didn't love it as much as I used to. And most of my training is in the healing modalities. I only have one intuitive course, even though I make my living as an intuitive channel. And one of my most influential teachers, who's still working, God bless her, Bonnie Bilios, she was influential in my not taking intuitive courses. Because at one point, another teacher of mine, Frank Alper, who's since passed, was offering a 7-day channeling course. And I said to Bonnie, should I do this? And very wisely, Mrs. Bilios said to me, be careful here. You don't want to become Frank. You don't want to become something else. If you just keep doing what you're doing, your own natural voice will come. And that is exactly what happened. So all of my diplomas, all of my training are in all various healing modalities. And out of that, my intuition grew. And the analogy we use when we're teaching and mentoring people in channeling and in intuitive arts, what we say to people is, think of yourself as a garden. You keep weeding the garden, the plant called intuition will grow all on its own. Your job is to keep weeding the garden. And so I do practice a lot of the healing arts that I'm trained in, but all of it has been for the development of me. And as the development of me happens, that sense of oneness with all comes. And I really love my life. Not that I didn't love it then, but there's more to my life to love now. And even though the spiritual journey that I walk may not be the easiest one, I still think I have the coolest job in the world. I've always been God-driven. And when I started out in the 90s and called myself a psychic, people would be surprised. You go to God? And I said, where else would I go? I was raised in a strong Catholic family, and my father was a very faithful man. And he taught me to trust God. That's what he taught me. All of the restrictions and limitations that came with the Catholic faith, out of that I got that I could trust God, that God cared all the time. My relationship with God has evolved, as I said before, beyond the religiousness of it, because I started to see that religion had its own entrapment, especially for me as a woman in a Catholic church. I couldn't become a priest, I could become a nun, which I considered doing around the age of 13 or 14. At one point in my journey, I joined the United Church, intending to become a minister. And when the interviewer at the church asked me why I wanted to be a minister, I said, I want to talk about God without people thinking I'm weird. That had its own result. As I said, Bonnie Bilios used to come from California every year. I lived in Ottawa, Ontario then, to teach a course. And she happened to be coming, no coincidence, the same weekend I was to do something in the United Church. And I had to choose. And I said to Bonnie, well, I just can't be there Sunday morning. Can I be there? And she said, I'm not being difficult, Donna. What we're doing builds. If you can't come Sunday morning, you're wasting your time. So I had to choose. And I chose the course with Bonnie, which was the end of the ministry idea. And that continued to grow. And so where I'm at now, I'm still very based in what I'll call creator God. And I use the word creator or creator of all that is more often than God, only because there's so many other things woven into my understanding of God from my childhood that I don't want to be limited by it, and hopefully not offending anyone. At one point in one of the table work treatments that Bonnie did with me, she said to me, we have to do something quite odd today, dear. She said, I hope you can do this with me. She said, I really need you to burn the church to find God, because the next stage of your growth, the church, the building, the man, all of that's in your way. And so on the table, in an imaginary way, we burnt the church to find God. And that's continued with me. And now I'm much more about oneness. I'm much more about the creator of all that is, which is a term I learned in my theta training. Because it's that, what I like to call the source potential. It's that raw potential from which all that is created comes from. And it's not limited by fish on Friday or mortal or venial sin. It's not limited by grace. It's not limited by confession. It's not limited by the ceremonies that were so important to me growing up, but the ceremonies that help make our relationship with God come clear. I don't make any of them wrong. I personally outgrew them. And I did that very gradually. As I said, I started this in 1988, and I didn't even know about reincarnation. That was foolish to me in that first year. And it grew, and now it grew from courses, it grew from teachers, it grew from books I read, and my own experimentation, my own seeing what I could do as a channel, what I could do as an intuitive arts teacher, a healing, I don't call myself a healer, I don't believe in that term, a healing arts teacher, and seeing the things I've seen, realizing the wisdoms I've realized, I started to just get a bigger picture of what God Creator is about. And the more free I was to experience creation, the more real God Creator became for me. But I even had inklings as a little girl, because I was very active in the church with my father. And I would say things to my father, like we had to go to confession in Catholicism. And I'd say, well, why do I have to tell the priest, Dad? I could just tell God. And he'd just say, that's not how we do it. So even at a young age, I did have a faithful trust of my relationship with God. But I didn't see dead people. I wasn't intuitive. I was naturally in alignment with the Creator. And I believe, take it with a grain of salt, that I am as good at what I do because I've always done it in service to the Creator. And that's my purpose, is to heal separation and nurture oneness, which starts in church, definitely, but I don't think it can be completely achieved in church. And so I encourage people that whatever allows them to form a personal relationship with the Creator of all that is, that's what you're looking for. I don't make how you do that wrong or right. Everybody's going to find it their own way. But I think what's important is that we keep moving in that direction. I think a most dangerous label is master. I think that's a dangerous label because it makes you think, okay, I've arrived. I'm done now. I'm a master Reiki teacher. I'm a master channeler. I've been doing this for 28 years. I've arrived. I believe that if I'm not transparent, I can still grow. And if I can do this, what else can I do? That's what my journey's about. And that's what I'm here to. I think this is an exciting time to be on the earth, because I think that we are going to be able to do things in the body with Creator, with energy, that we've never been able to do before. Because when I started out in early 1990s, being a psychic was a gifted place. People didn't want anyone to know they went to a psychic. I once taught a meditation class, and someone said to me, well, I'm going to sign up, but you have to tell me who's going to be there, because I need to know who's going to know I'm there. It was very protective and very secretive and very frightening. My take on it now, take me with a grain of salt, it's not a gift. It's a reunion with who we really are. And what once was this special psychic ability is now commonplace, and it needs to be. It's not special to be a channel or a medium or a psychic anymore, and I'm so happy about that. And I think the ego judging mind can use that, well, you're gifted. You want to insult me? Call me gifted. I'm not gifted. I didn't have this when I was a little girl. I learned. I took the courses. I did the readings. I did the exercises. I did the journaling. I'm a Capricorn. You tell me to do it, I do it. Okay? And so this was earned step by step by step. And only when I got to the studies I did recently with Dr. Joe Dispenza did I understand why that was true and right. Because Dr. Joe Dispenza taught me what my brain does that enables me to channel. Where my brain goes, that makes me mystic. And so now I'm not a mystic anymore. It's science. You get that brain from beta to alpha to theta, and from theta you can go to gamma, you're channeling. And he teaches you how to get your brain into theta. Meditation is all about keeping the body in delta, and the brain in theta, and then experiencing gamma. And so I think gifted is a trap. I think it's a place where we can make excuses for why let someone else get my messages. I'll listen to someone else's guides. I'll read someone else's books. It's an excuse. that the ego judging mind uses to keep the status quo small, to keep the victim alive. I love my life. I have the coolest job in the world, but every now and again, I'd like to just be a victim again, because I'm not anymore. And that's one of the drawbacks, dare I say, of this line of thinking. Because it's not because I create my own reality, it's because I live my life and my choices, and I believe choices are superpower. Our choices direct our life. And if you don't like where you are, make another choice. Make another choice. I remember in 1988, 89, Barbara Eagles teaching us tarot cards and saying, which at the time sounded like a terrible cop-out, the cards are only going to tell your client what's ahead of them based on their choices they're making. If they don't like what you're telling them, tell them to make other choices. And I remember thinking, well, I'm a psychic. Don't I know what their choices are? But I learned over the years, no, no. Any reading simply says to you, based on how you're living, based on the resistances you're holding on to, based on the choices you keep making, this is where you're headed. And so a reading is saying, if you don't like where you're going, then choose something else and make the reading wrong. And that's, I think, what people don't get when they go to anyone for any kind of a reading, is that we're working with you. We're not working for you. I am capable, at my level of experience, if you think of yourself as a house, I'm capable at my level of experience of going into your house, looking under every bed, going into every closet, looking in every cupboard. None of it's closed to me unless you close the door. If I come to a room in your house and that door is closed, I knock 3 times symbolically. And if you don't open that door, I move on. And so what people don't understand is anyone doing the intuitive or healing arts, they're in service to you. And where you can't go yet, we can't take you. Where you have resistance to going, we can't push you. We can encourage, we can cajole, we can even trick a little sometimes if soul gives us the right perceptions. But we have our own built-in security system. And sometimes the judging egoic mind uses that security system as sabotage. And that's because we get attached. Well, I can only do this. I'm a woman, I'm this age, I can only do this. I've only got this much education. I've got this many kids. I've got this much money. All of the excuses are to keep us in the status quo. My job is to push you a little outside the status quo and show you that there's something else, if you'll let me show you. Motivation will always tell you where you're coming from. As I said earlier, I do my work as much for me as for my clients. Choose what you're going to do. Choose how you're going to spend your time. And I believe so completely and wholeheartedly that you must be getting something from what you do. I don't believe in service for service sake. I don't believe in obligation. I don't believe in that type of obligatory service. I'm even like that with my family. If I haven't talked to my family member for a while, it's because I don't want to or I don't need to. I don't phone everybody at 7 o'clock on Sunday because they are my family. I think we have to have more flow in our life. And I think it's so important to recognize what you're getting back from anything you participate in. Because if we don't have recognition of self, then we can be convinced to recreate the wheel over and over and over again by that sabotaging mind. We need to do things, recognize our role in them, recognize the difference we've made, and then build on that. And God bless me when I was 15 and wanted to be a school teacher, and my father asked me why. At 15, this wonderful girl I was said to my father, I want the world to be different because I was in it. And that almost brings tears to me because I still have that same desire, and I could die tomorrow because I have made a difference in this world, and I know that. And it's okay that I know that. I'm not walking around with a sign on my back about it, but I know that. And that's the difference between arrogant ego and recognition. Self-recognition is self. It's like, okay, I did that. I did that. We can do more. Whereas arrogance is, did I tell you what I did? Which is very different. And so I believe in mirror work. That's what my friend Jennifer Johnson taught me. And mirror work is where you stand in front of the mirror and you talk to yourself. You look yourself in the eye and you say, you did a good job today. I know you really didn't want to do this and we almost canceled that last client, but look what we did. Aren't you glad we didn't cancel? That's self-encouragement. That's self-recognition. There's no arrogance in that. There's no ego, in my opinion, in that. It's just the recognition of your part. Again, another way to nurture the separation of our world is to think that I'm in service. It's not for me, it's for everybody else. That keeps you separate. We're about restoring oneness. We're about restoring connection. So the internet's all about. I fought working on the internet for years. My husband kept trying to convince me, no, I don't want the magnetics of the energy. I have to be with the person. There has to be an energetic bond. Nonsense. It's about oneness. And the internet, in my opinion, is an outward symbol of the oneness that we're creating, the reconnection, the reunion that's possible for us. And there are still people like me that serve people who are not feeling in connection. But my job, literally, is to become useless to my clients. If I do my job right, they don't need me. And you come to me when you're doing your stuff, no matter what you do, you can't get past this block. You've hit the glass ceiling. You can't get clear info on this question. That's when you come to me. That's who I want to work with. I want to work with the people that are their own best teacher, wisdom maker, but they hit places just like I do. I have colleagues I go to for theta healing, colleagues I have to admit I haven't had a reading in a long time, but I do go to colleagues for theta healing, for body work, for mirror work, because I hit places where I have found a piece of myself that I can't get beyond. And that's another analogy, and maybe I'm going on too much about this, but another analogy I have of us, another way to think of yourself as a human, is I look at my clients as diamonds. And a diamond is beautiful because it's got all these beautifully clear facets and the light refracts through them. They even measure the value of a diamond by clarity. I look at my clients as diamonds. And what I'm looking for when I do a soul reading is the facets that are cloudy, the facets that the light can't refract through, and then to help them see those and give them ideas, possibilities, homework on how to clear that facet. And that's what I'm doing with myself. I hit facets where I've hit my own shadows, where I've hit my own lack of clarity, where I've hit my own resistances. In Ho'oponopono, they would call it data, where I've hit something that's in my way. And I either seek someone who can help me, or I pray and I find my way through it. That's your spiritual journey. And we are all capable of being 100% clear in our diamondness. But if we settle for half of the clarity, then we will live in half of the clarity. And the victim allows us to blame that on someone outside of ourselves. I have no choice. We always have a choice. We may not like the choice, but we always have a choice. And when we don't make a choice, we have made a choice. That choice is you're going to let someone else make your choice. And then your victim is nourished once again. And so I see things very simply, sometimes too simply perhaps. I have an innocent child in my heart that I trust wholly and completely, and she knows God Creator better than I ever could. And our expression is often through her language, not through mine. But I guess if I had to wrap it up, I would say, work on your relationship with the Creator of all that is, not just God of your religions. See yourself as a multifaceted being. Do not just be a mother, just be a woman, just be a lover, just be a teacher. Look at all that you could possibly be, and then look for the woman you can become. Look for the man you are becoming, and encourage that aspect of yourself. There's a wonderful There is a wonderful post on Facebook that I so enjoy, which is, if you could have a conversation with your future self, what would you tell him or her? That's what your spiritual journey is about. It's about living. It's about being present. It's not about sacrifice. It's not about eating fish on Friday. It's not about recording your sins. It's not about duty. It's about heartfelt participation in life itself.